Welcome to Revenue Boost, a marketing podcast, the most valuable resource for business leaders who need a boost in revenue and business growth. I'm your host, Kerry Curran, and with over 20 years of marketing agency experience driving client business growth, I now run RBMA, Revenue-Based Marketing Advisors, where we help businesses like yours effectively scale revenue growth. Visit revenuebasedmarketing.com or connect with me on LinkedIn today. In this episode of Revenue Boost, a marketing podcast titled Mastering Influencer Marketing in Regulated Industries, Navigating Compliance, Aligning Brand Goals, and Driving Success, I sit down with the brilliant Joelle Moroney, CEO of Creator Collective. Joelle and I discuss how regulated brands can leverage influencer marketing effectively. Joelle shares her expertise on balancing authentic creator content with the strict compliance needs of industries like financial services and healthcare. She details the steps to develop influencer strategies that align with brand goals while staying within legal boundaries, including selecting vetted creators, crafting clear brand guidelines, and utilizing tech platforms for monitoring compliance. From aligning with brand safety standards to achieving measurable ROI, this episode provides valuable insights for leaders looking to navigate the complexities of influencer marketing in highly regulated spaces. Let's go. And welcome, Joelle. Please introduce yourself and share a bit about your background and extensive experience.
Hi, Kerry. So great to be here today. Joelle Moroney, CEO of Creator Collective. We are an advisory boutique firm working with creators, empowering creators, curating technology, as well as global brand strategy for social impact.
Excellent. So I know, Joelle, you've been you've had a front row seat really to the evolution of influencer and creator and ambassador strategies. So share a bit about kind of what you've seen and how it's changed.
Absolutely. So thanks for that tee up. For sure, starting in what I would call the first gen version of influencer marketing in the creator economy, with Time Inc. and Condé Nast, whereby it was at the time more celebrities and editors that were endorsing and or promoting the best in breed for services and products through editorial and thought leadership. I was lucky enough to be with InStyle, Real Simple, and Gourmet at the time. And then evolved into the analytics, right? Because we all have to monetize the work that we do, which is, of course, Revenue Boost platform. And in doing that, I went into what was cutting edge technology with DataZoo, and that was acquired by Roku, as you may know. And then also, of course, Yahoo. So now here we are, fast forward into what I would call 2.0, 3.0 creator version with influencer marketing. I absolutely feel that this will continue to proliferate the marketplace as we're looking to have influencers continue and creators to tell brand stories in a very authentic manner that lands with their audiences.
Yeah. So as you've seen the explosion in the 2.0, as you've said, like what has been the most exciting to you?
Well, when I look at this, I think it's more about the fact that we're all creators in our own right. And it's also about letting authentic voices ring clear in verticals that we all care about, whether it's finance, food, travel, technology. There are ways to lean in and learn more about the best places to go, the best places to eat, the best guidance and principles in terms of your investments. We know for a fact that people are now leaning on TikTok and Instagram for advice with their healthcare as they are with their finances. So this is a very powerful platform, and the creator economy is starting to drive not just Fortune 500 companies, but also smaller companies as well.
No, excellent. And you're right. We've seen just how prevalent and pervasive, really, that TikTok, people getting your like financial advice, healthcare advice. When I was involved with some research last year, and actually the number one source reported by in the survey, the number one source for information related to financial services was actually influencers. So at first it made me a little bit nervous because obviously you don't want just a TikTok celebrity giving you investment advice, but then realizing, I looked into it more, and it's really, there's so much, even just general 101, let's get, Dave Ramsey type of, let's get your finances in order type of content out there that is useful, valuable, and beneficial. And to your point, having the brand kind of drive that conversation or build the framework for that conversation can be so powerful for brands, financial institutions that want to build those connections with those audiences that are, really consuming that information and trying to learn and change their own financial road. So talk about, what I love about kind of what your POV and your experience, what you've shared with me, is really how you help those kind of more highly regulated brands and institutions build those influencer strategies through that really authentic brand storytelling through brand ambassadors. So share a bit kind of how you build that framework and kind of start to make sure that you're helping brands connect and drive those that audience engagement.
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up because I do specialize in highly regulated industries, financial services in particular, as well as healthcare. And I say that because there are very strict guidelines that the creators must adhere to, right, in terms of making sure that they are landing within the guardrails of the guidelines for the company, also FTC guidelines we have to be mindful of as part of that. And there are very experienced creators that we can curate to make sure that we know they are tried and true and also vetted properly within the selection. So I work with, again, empowering creators directly via talent agents and or creators directly that I have relationships with. Also curating different tech platforms that specialize in those particular areas to make sure that we are properly vetting these creators. It is important because what we're finding more than ever, the CFO and CEO are very concerned, especially in our economic and political environment, that the influencers are going to stay on brand reputation, which is critical, certainly with financial services and different guidelines. And when you're providing this sort of advice, whether it's medical and or financial, there have to be also some disclosures. I found in my work with healthcare that there were often ISI guidelines that we would have to put through the feed, which may look like a sort of impediment to some of the actual creator flow, but it's part of the disclosure and it lands well. It's fine. The audience knows that that's an important constituent to that as well.
That's great. And so when you're working with brands, you want to make sure you're tying it back to everything's based on their business objectives. I know creator and influencer, it can be a shiny object of, oh, we need to do this. I saw TikTok is big, but talk about how you make sure it really kind of connects to that what they're trying to achieve with their other marketing strategies.
Yes. So I did mention that first and foremost, we want to make sure that we are building out a strategy that is in direct alignment with the business objectives. And then also the key metrics for success. What do the brands care about? What are they being held accountable for? Which is where ultimately the ROI comes in and certainly the revenue model. But what we will also do is build out a brand brief so that we are very clear on the targets, the personas, who they're looking to reach, as well as the actual creator that will be representing the brand specifically. Then we look at the narrative that the client, in my case client, but a brand will want to make sure they're communicating to their audiences, keeping it tight and simple so that we are being very efficient with the creators' content and storytelling. The third element is looking at KPIs, right? Because we want to make sure that we're monetizing this and looking at the analytics. Often I recommend, or we look at a hybrid KPI because we're looking to build out awareness. Certainly with Revenue Boost in your platform, you're doing this regularly with different clients, but we're also making sure that we're monetizing this from a building a greater awareness, upper funnel, as well as lower funnel conversions. That said, that will also help predicate what type of creator and who we want to align with the brand, because their following will help with the engagement. And for example, there are often brands that want to have the awareness with a mega or a celebrity. Let's say Dunkin' Donuts, for example, with Charlie D'Amelio. But then you're also going to want to have lower funnel conversion and have macro influencers who are regular customers at Dunkin' to share their story, because we find call to action works really well when we have audiences that are super hyper engaged with the micro and mega influencers.
No, that's great. And so you're working with the brand team at the marketing team and kind of brand leads on the client side, and then building that brief, making sure you're aligned on the creators and the KPIs. And then, talk about kind of how do you help them navigate choosing the right creators or influencers to be part of the program?
Absolutely. So once we've identified all of the different sort of framework elements, we then start to look at the influencer discovery process. And a lot of it can be heavy lift. Certainly on my side, I have different constituents that I work with based on verticals, specifically for experts. If we want a financial expert, for example, I tap into my Yahoo Finance category, talent recruitments, but also looking at those tech platforms I mentioned that curate the different influencers. Most recently with Linkia, in terms of being an advisor for them, there are, let's say, over 1 million influencers in the tech platform. There are maybe 20 million in the ecosystem, and 2 million are actually making money. But what we're doing is using AI tech recognition for logo to look at text, logo, and also just throughout their social feed, the affiliate that they may already have with the current brand. But most importantly, we're also looking at category exclusivity. We're looking at availability. So often you'll pick a sample set of creators to then build that out so that we know that they're on point with the brand strategist, and build out different lookalikes to make sure that we have enough influencers that are properly curated that we know to prove out the success of a campaign.
Excellent. And I know you also talked about diversity being an important aspect of kind of building out that mix of ambassadors and creators.
100%. So we definitely make sure that with every program that we recommend and build out strategy for, that we have at least 20% of the creator portfolio filling into the diversity areas, depending on what the brand focus is and their target and persona. It's important to have different share of voice, different perspectives as we build out these programs.
Excellent. And so as you're building out, especially in the heavily regulated industries, and you mentioned how making sure you have all of the ISI data, but how do you communicate with the creators to make sure they really understand the brand safety guidelines? I think that's what I would guess is one of the biggest hesitations for especially regulated brands to want to kind of test into the influencer space.
That's a great point. And in fact, I think we might have been talking earlier, there's this fine line between allowing the creator to have free license to build out their creative and keep it very real and genuine and authentic with their audience, but then also adhering to the guidelines that are presented to them within the brand brief when we're working with the creator specifically. But it is important that they do stay within those guidelines, that they also are speaking to the different brand safety call outs for a particular program. And they know that going in, but it's also a part of the curation and monitoring that will take shape with the tech platforms to make sure that they're adhering to these guidelines. And the content is reviewed, and it is often reviewed by the brand specifically, so that we're making sure that we're on point before we go live.
Excellent. And so, with creator content, you're reaching their followers, and the algorithms are not always the most dependable from that perspective. So it seems it's become more and more prevalent to add that paid media amplification to expand the reach. How are you
Yeah.
going about that, building that into all of your strategies?
Absolutely, Kerry. So part of this is we know that we can build out different types of models in working with creators. The organic is fluid. We can estimate and do predictive modeling on impressions and engagement, but it's the paid media amplification, boosting, and whitelisting from the influencer's handle where we know that we can provide that guaranteed ROI, whatever the KPIs are specifically, whether it's impressions, clicks, engagements. So that's where we leverage those best assets that we know the creative landed super well in terms of that content engagement with their audience. And then we can build out, test, iterate, learn what is the best creative assets to then leverage into the paid media amplification. And in most cases, we can find 3x lift by leveraging that influencer's handle to do that.
Yeah, so smart. And it just extends the kind of value and usage of all of that unique
That's right.
content.
And another component to that is it's just such an efficient way to build out content for O&O channels, for
Yeah.
CTV, for programmatic, for display, and for recruitment and for internal. I've done this with other financial services companies where they're doing this with their B2B channel. The influencer may or may not boost within their platform or externally, but they were also using those assets for webinars.
This episode of Revenue Boost, a marketing podcast, is brought to you by Kriglu. Want to boost customer acquisition while saving time and money? Meet Kriglu, an AI-powered omnichannel bid management platform designed to optimize your ad spend. Kriglu intelligently adjusts bids across channels, ensuring your ads reach the right audience at the lowest cost. Plus, with its automation, you'll free up valuable time to focus on your business. The result? Efficient, cost-effective growth, all while maximizing your marketing budget. Ready to scale smarter and faster? Visit Kriglu.com, Kriglo.com, and start saving today. No, that's great. That's great. I mean, there's so much value, and the whole benefit to the influencer and ambassador is to make it more relatable and kind of allow the creators to build that promotion, but also share value with their audiences. So it sounds, I know it's easy and amazing and kind of turnkey, but there are still a lot of challenges, especially, with brands that are kind of just getting or newer to this. So what are some of the bigger challenges that you've seen and run into that you've had to kind of navigate and help clients with?
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. And I was sharing with you too that just being at Adweek recently in New York, it was evident that most brands realize this is table stakes. They should be leveraging the creator economy and influencers to help boost their overall marketing mix. It's proving the ROI. So that's one of the biggest challenges. And part of it is, yes, on the creator and or agency tech platform models, but it's also on the brand to have that tight API integration with third-party measurement, looking at media mix modeling and attribution to make sure that there's synchronization so that there isn't any inefficiencies in the way in which there's tracking. So that requires a media optimization team to thoughtfully look at the plan to build out that revenue and making sure that we're driving the conversions and or brand lift, whatever the case may be, whatever tools they may be using specifically. So often there will be recommendations, but then it's more about the implementation. That is very much a partnership opportunity. And I really think there's a lot of growth that needs to happen in that particular area.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the tying back the investment to actual business results, I know is always a challenge for any media strategy, and especially these days. I think brands are more and more leaning into kind of those lower funnel direct response initiatives, because you can measure the click
Yeah.
and the web form complete or the purchase. But to your point, it's like this, the kind of awareness and engagement strategy building aspects are so important. And I think more brands should be looking at brand lift studies as part of their
That's
measurement
right.
first.
And
Yeah.
we know that I think eMarketer just gave a data statistic that literally there will be $20 billion invested in the creator economy over this next year. That is
Yeah.
extraordinary. And that, in my opinion, creators are becoming literally mini media companies in their own right. So back to our original part of the conversation, whether it was Time Inc. Condé Nast, InStyle, Simple Gourmet
Yeah.
as media companies, now these creators are individual media companies. So
Yeah.
it will behoove these brands and or agencies to not lean in, but to learn how best to work with them and
Mm-hmm.
to have a middle zone, right? Because again, we want to make sure that this is landing real and genuinely aligning with the brands, but also within the context of it making the most sense with their brand safety guidelines and what they're, building their trust and loyalty with their consumers in an authentic way.
No, you're so right. And when I speak with a lot of kind of leaders in the influencer and creator space, and over I keep hearing that brands, that's the biggest challenge. Let the creators create. The brands, they want to control it. They're used to the being part of the production and having the actors follow a script. So it's
Yeah,
really hard to take that step back and think about, the creators. They know their audiences. They know what resonates. They
yeah,
know how to get that engagement and the shares. And so it's trusting the creator to be the expert, to your point. And a lot of them do now have their own, camera crew and their own producers. So it is just a more nimble approach to the more traditional scripted production. And sure, there probably are still scripted points, but at the end of the day, as you said, like you as long as it follows the brand guidelines,
hmm
and especially you can include any legal requirements, whether it's financial or healthcare related. Let
hmm
the creators create, because that's what's going to be most successful for your strategy and execution. So
exactly. And then just really completely holistically leveling up the fact that there's real opportunity to make a social impact in doing this.
yeah,
And
for
I've seen
sure.
this firsthand with a creator I work with, Sheena Malwani, where she will go on for the American Heart Association to work with the TikTok um, platform and do a fundraiser live, just
Wow.
spontaneously.
Yeah.
And when she can do that and engage her audience and garner revenue for the greater good, and then have a TikTok that will then match those donations, the numbers are exceptional and the revenue can be significant. And I
Hmm.
think that's where the kind of spreading the joy aspect of the work that we do can really have a lot of social impact on a global level with brands that want to lean into those different categories. So when I'm working with brands specifically, I think it is important to have a sustainability message and or social impact, like a city does with No Kid Hungry. There's
Yeah.
just so many different opportunities to find real, authentic, genuine connections that are driving revenue. Yes, from a profitability perspective, but certainly also to generate social impact.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's excellent. And so, Joelle, I know, thank you for sharing so much of your expertise with us. One last question is, like, what is your recommendation for a brand that's ready to get started, especially one in a regulated industry?
Yes, I think first and foremost, it's finding a trusted advisor to do that. I found great success in having a lot of experience in different verticals, platforms, content areas to monetize specifically for that brand. Finding the
Mhm.
vertical of focus in a brand and or tech platform that will help deliver on the KPIs that are most important, but then really aligning with the activation and execution team to do that, to see it through. It's also important that there's an always on methodology, not just a one and
Mhm.
done, because that can
Yep.
lead to more inefficiencies in doing that.
Excellent. And let the creators create.
let the creators create and have their authentic voice shine through,
Yeah,
because consumers are super smart.
definitely. Well, thank you so much, Joelle. Really enjoyed having you on today, and thank you.
Thanks, Kerry. Appreciate it.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Revenue Boost, a marketing podcast. We have more valuable content coming up, so be sure to subscribe to Revenue Boost, a marketing podcast, so you don't miss out. To connect with me, Kerry Curran, and learn how you can boost your revenue or listen to past episodes, visit revenuebasedmarketing.com.